Okay, so my name is Kent Hedges. I am a construction project executive with a healthcare company based in Austin, Texas. We have projects all over the country. Like I said, healthcare is the focus. But first and foremost, I'm a man of God. I believe that Jesus Christ is my Lord and my Savior. I am a very happy husband of 31 years almost, or just past 31 years. I've got three sons, two older, done with college. Youngest just went to college. And then I've got this job that I do on the side from all that other stuff. And I was lucky enough to meet Kelly. That was 2015 or 16, I think it was. We were doing a behavioral health project in Louisville, Colorado, right outside of Boulder. And Kelly was one of my partners on it. And we just had a great time. And it's awesome to be able to come back together and to support your podcast and the great things you guys are doing in the business. And anytime we can talk about lean and strategies, tools, perspectives on how to get better at what we do, I always look forward to take advantage of it. And especially if I'm helping out a friend and helping me just to spread the word, within the business.
I would like to know, I know you've been in the industry for a long time, but where's the passion that has made you just stay in it and want to continue the growth and the improvement of the industry?
Well, I've been in construction for about 28 years. I've been in lean for about half of that. And so I was introduced to lean early in about 10 years or 11 years in 2013 when I was with my previous company. And it was just amazing, eye-opening that, oh my gosh, there is a better way to do this. I spent a long time as a government liaison, contracting officer on active duty. And man, it was things take a long time, very expensive, a lot of red tape, and a lot of just waste. Now, what I've learned is a lot of waste in that system. And so when I found what this new way of approaching just some very basic things, I was really excited about it. And so that's the kind of the business side of it. Personally, when I was also introduced at the same time to StrengthsFinder and Core Clarity and some other tools that help me figure out who I am. And so when I found out that my number one is positivity, my number two is woo, and my number three is maximizer, and then my number four is communication, I'm like the ultimate motivator of teams. And so I always joke about I've got a civil engineering degree and it looks great on my wall, but I can't design myself out of a paper bag, right? So I'd much rather do this and project manage, bring a team together and just try to get better, right? And so the business that we are in is hard enough when we don't take care of each other. But it can be so much better if we make a choice as a team at the beginning. We lay out some of those very basic goals to just take care of each other, treat each other with respect, that it really changes the dynamic and the opportunity for success is hugely increased. You guys have probably heard the stats that, the suicide rate in our business is 4 times the national average. I mean, and as an owner, that's my responsibility. As partners, you guys are partners in our business. That is our responsibility as a team. And over the years, we just beat each other up. And we say, well, the deadline is the deadline is the deadline. You need to meet the deadline. Okay, I understand that, both as an owner and as partners that deliver projects for us. But we've got to understand that we're not going to have an industry unless we start taking care of each other. So that's kind of the basis that keeps me going is I found out who I am at my best, who I am if I'm living in my best. And I know that, I've done a lot of introspection over the years to just say, okay, who am I? And that's really 3 things. I connect people. I connect with people. I'm a mentor coach in this stage of my career and my life. And then I look at processes. I do a lot of process value. What is value stream mapping?
That's there you go. Yeah.
And so, little senior moment there. So as long as I'm in those 3 things, at least a little bit every day, that means that the company is getting me at my best. That means I'm excited to get up in the morning and let's get to it. Let's get after it. Are there problems? Sure. There are always problems, challenges, but if we just change our mindset to bring a little bit of energy, a little bit of positivity to it, we can make some little baby changes that create much better impact and results for the team.
I'd say I mean I felt all of that just on my first IPD project with you, Kent.
Yeah, that was funny. And you know, back in those days, I found myself being the kind of lean champion in the team, and I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, Kelly was gracious enough, and the other teammates and partners were gracious enough to allow me to, hey, let's try this and let's break it and let's try again. And some tools worked well. Some philosophies were grabbed onto by some folks and others not so much. And that's all we can say is let's just try. And one of the things that we talked about, a great tool that we set up, was the conditions of satisfaction. And it's very simple concept, very challenging to execute. So we said, okay, we're 2 years after the project's done, and we're going to talk about the project. What was good? What are we going to be very proud of in that project? And so it was funny because we set up we made a list of different things. And Kelly, you probably remember the visual that we used, and Stacy Root came up with it, and it was these pigs flying with wings.
Yes, it was. Yes.
And so we had this big poster, and we had a red, yellow, green that we kind of graded ourselves on. Let's say it was responding to submittals. And we said, okay, can we respond to submittals within 5 days? And from beginning to end, the process is 5 days. And so every 6 months or 4 months or whatever, we would grade ourselves on a red, we're not doing very good. Yellow, we're okay. Green, we're doing really well. And so we would change the color of the pig. And we say, how are we doing? And we had like 10 of these different objectives. One was on, are we making a profit? Are we making money? Are we giving to the community like a blood drive? Are we getting out as a team and doing something? How are me as an owner, am I paying the partners within 30 to 45 days? You know, we came up with that as a group and said, okay, how are we doing? And that was a big poster board. We printed it out, mounted it on the wall so everybody could see it. And then when somebody came up with a new approach, maybe a rabbit hole or something, we said, stop, wait a minute. This is our lens, is these 10 things. Does it impact any of those 10 things? If it does in a negative way, that's a good indicator that's probably not the best way to go, because that's going to impact maybe how we relate to each other. We're not going to make our profit. We're not going to be on schedule, whatever those 10 things were. So, but the key was we laid the groundwork at day one, and we said, okay, we as a team are coming together to figure this out. Historically, when we deal with problems, it's like this. This is the problem. My hand is the problem, and it's between me and you. Automatically, there's animosity. Automatically, there's a barrier. So instead, we changed that to look to the side, and we say, okay, problem's over here. Now we're on the same side dealing with the problem over here. Okay, that's a different perspective. And so we can attack it from different perspectives, treat each other, again, with respect. And now, don't get me wrong, we had some really good arguments over a lot of stuff over about the 18 months we were working on that project, from design through construction. And yeah, we had our challenges. And yeah, people came and went on and off the team. But again, once we set those, hey, this is our lens of success, and we need to make sure that we're staying true to it.
I totally forgot about the flying pigs.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as you said it, I went, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I should be using that as like my visual for conditions of satisfaction in general. And that's
well,
so
because
crazy.
That was one of the challenges, that a lot of times we have these tools and we have all this great intention, and we spend a lot of time and it gets buried in a binder somewhere, or it gets buried in a small 8.5 by 11 sheet that's just sitting over in the corner. And after 2 years or year and a half in a trailer, that trailer's pretty messy. And so we said, no, this is big. We're blowing it up. And it's a visual that we come back to very routinely. And again, as long as we were updating it and being true to it, yeah, we had a lot of reds sometimes, and we had lost sight of it sometimes. But at least it kept us, instead of these big hills and valleys of success, we had the smaller ones that we could adjust and we could make corrections and just change our attack on issues to get us back closer to those success rates or success formulas.
Do you think that conditions of satisfaction would work on like traditional projects? Do you think it's like should only specifically be on like an IPD type of job?
There's no reason it can't apply to anything you do. My youngest, Logan, he's now a freshman in college. And, this was his past year, was his senior year in high school. And so like, hey, what is your success for this exam or this test or your baseball season, baseball player? So what are the pieces of success, conditions of satisfaction for you that you're going to turn around at the end of this season? It's going to be a successful season. And, a lot of these lean tools I've tried to do pool planning with them, and they're like, whatever, Dad, I'm not going to do that. Okay, well, I've kept my friendship. I've got my batting average up. I'm healthy and having fun playing the game. I'm energetic when I'm on the field playing. I'm bringing energy to the team on the dugout. Whatever those issues are, that's a life thing. Don't think about it in those terms very often, though. We typically think about it as work, and it comes back to the simple things. Am I under budget and am I on time? Well, how many studies have you guys seen that 56% is the most conservative I've seen? Projects are over budget and late. Why? Because we're not focused on it to make it a condition of satisfaction that we're going to hold each other to. Hey, is that change order going to slow us down or going to cost more money? If it is, how are we going to deal with it? What are the mitigation measures we're going to do to keep on schedule and on budget? A lot of times with schedules, I see, well, we made the decision and we're going to save 3 weeks on that deliverable. Okay, does that mean we're pulling back the schedule 3 weeks? Or that just means we've got 3 more weeks of float, for the lack of a better term, to just fit other stuff into? No. It's true success of pulling back a schedule if the back end date C of O, let's say, condition certificate of occupancy, that gives the owner more time to move in. That's awesome. Let's do that. But there's no project that could not use those basic a conversation about condition satisfaction. I got to go do an oil change in my car. It's going to cost me $100 and it's take an hour. Well, if it's costing me $120 and 2 hours, I'm not satisfied. That's why when I go to the Toyota dealer and I say, hey, how long is it going to take and how much it's going to cost? Okay, I'm holding you to it because I'm going to go sit over there and I'm going to got my stopwatch going.
I had a conversation with a team yesterday, and we kind of talked about like those goals, those higher level goals. And it's like, what are we working towards? And I was like, just the end of the job. It's like, yeah, but that's so far, right? When you think about it. And so if that's the goal you're aiming for, we're all just going to be tired because it's just so far away. So we had talked about, it's like, let's find some like smaller goals. Like when this one's done in like 3 months, awesome, right? And just trying to track something a little more tangible than when this project's done. Because if the project's not done in 3 or 4 years, that could be really hard. And that condition of satisfaction is just not even attainable when you really think about it.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And especially those really long ones, you've got to be, because you're still looking at the way Last Planner works, right? Is you take the big chunk and you say, okay, the whole project is 3 years, but you've got these quarterly milestones. And I try to go no more than 90 days. So there is something for us to celebrate. We are showing progress towards, and even if that is site work that's a year long of site work, well, we've got to break that down to say, okay, we're going to have the underground utility, the water line in the next 90 days, and we're going to celebrate. We don't celebrate, guys. We don't. We just say, hey, congratulations, we're moving on to the next thing. Oh, stop. Wait a minute. We need to bring in the food, do a safety call to give away tools to the teams and the guys in the field, make it a big deal because it really is. And small steps lead to the bigger success of the work, especially over a long time. You have a lot of people coming and going. So that means that you've got to look at reviewing that thing 6 months at a minimum. You got to look at it every 6 months. And so you can break it down to quarters or whatever to make it work for your team. But again, That is a condition of satisfaction in and of itself. How often are we reviewing the conditions of satisfaction?
Mhm.
Are we doing it quarterly? And what are we doing about that? What's the step after that? Are we still on track? We need to make some adjustments.
What are some of the best conditions of satisfaction?
So I know we're talking about conditions of satisfaction, but I do have one question, just real quick, just something you said earlier. How do we get owners to buy in with this mentality? Because it really does truly come from the owners, because we can, the general contractor all the way down to the trades partners can have this kind of mentality, but if the owner does not agree, like it doesn't really make a difference.
Well, I get that question a lot as an owner. Obviously, the people ask, and as a lean champion, people ask me this all the time, and I've really changed my mindset over the years of how I look at companies and how I interview companies. And I look at primarily, and Kelly can tell you, the project manager and the superintendent for either the GC, the trade. Those are the people that are going to be standing there with us in the middle of the mess, 6 months into the project, right? That's who is going to. So looking at their mentality, do they have a teamwork, respectful, lean approach to the way they conduct their business? A lot of the older guys struggle with this because they feel that it's on them. This is how thou shall do the work. No, that's an approach, but you're going to push a lot of people away. So I look at it. I'm going to answer I'm going to work my way around to it. But the company does not have to be an owner. I think that's a myth that it has to come from the owner. When you talk to lean at its most basic things is just the ruthless elimination of waste in everything you do. Kelly's heard me tell this story, making lunches for my kids before they go to school. How many times do I need to open the refrigerator? How many times do I need to open the pantry? How many paths do I have to take across the kitchen to finish that up? If I can eliminate one step, that's maybe a 10% improvement, So we can take in our companies, in our lives, any process that drives us nuts and keeps us up at night and saying, I need help in squeezing the waste out of that process. It means as much as you can control. Is it helpful if the owner is a lean driver? Absolutely does help. But we've got to work together as a team, as lean advocates, to train and to push the agenda and say, hey, listen, I've got a combative owner. And maybe we just talk about condition of satisfaction. That's the only lean topic we do on this project. For the next 9 months, we're going to be together, and it's only one tool. We're not going to get into LPS. We're not going to do this. But again, I tell GCs all the time. I tell my trades all the time. Do you even understand your production? Does what you bid on this project, are you matching that up to what you're producing in the field every day? Do you know? Most superintendents will tell you they don't know. So how do you know if you're making money for your company or you're losing money for your company? Eliminating waste. And if I can tell you one tool, and that's typically Last Planner and the pull planning system, that'll save you 10%, easy 10% over your competitors on the next job. You don't need an owner to tell you that. But if you know how much you're going to spend, how much an hour really costs you, how much a lineal foot of pipe really costs you, a square foot of drywall really costs you, you can make a huge difference in your own company. But it's education, really, is more than anything else. And through LCI, they're trying a lot of different things to get more owners on board with how can we work together to get owners more involved and more trained up. And it takes owners talking to owners. And I'm part of a lean LCI, that's Lean Construction Institute, community of practice of healthcare leaders. And there's probably 30 healthcare systems around the country that are represented on that call every month. Sometimes there's maybe 6 or 7 of us. Other times there's 25 or 30. And that's all kinds of health systems. Surprise, surprise, we're all dealing with the same challenges. It's not just us in Texas and us in Indiana, but it's Seattle, it's Florida, it's Maryland, it's California. I mean, we all have the same challenges with how to get better at what we do and how to save money or better utilize the dollars that we're given by us as owners, and how are we being better stewards of those dollars.
I was gonna say, I mean, to me, it doesn't matter. Like you were saying, love to have it coming from the owner, but if a trade partner's willing to do it, I know with me as a trade partner, willing to I'm just gonna practice it with my own team. Let's just go there. And as a general contractor, I'm just gonna practice it with my own team. Like at that point, like at least we're trying to be better when internally to ourselves, and usually that then is shown externally to our clients, to the people around us, and they're going to go, I want to work with these people. They are successful, they look like they're having fun at work. Flying pigs, hey. So I mean, why wouldn't you want to hang out with those people? Sounds like a good time. And long-lasting relationships. We didn't even talk about that, but I mean, Kent, we're here how almost maybe
10 years later.
Yeah, and those are relationships that I have not found anywhere else in the industry. And so I really think starting from the beginning of like, what do we want to see as success on a project is really key. But at the same point, like, do we really make stretch goals that challenge us on our projects? I mean, we've all had some really good conditions of satisfaction, but then there's ones that you really hoped would go well and they've gone to crap. I mean, do we challenge ourselves even with the people that do them? Do we challenge ourselves enough?
I don't think we do. I think that we come across an obstacle that maybe that's a little bit too much for us to go after, or we're not holding each other accountable enough. My personal mentality is one that I find myself, there's a goal, but I don't push hard enough because I don't want to ruin a relationship, but that's just my own tactics. And I think a lot of this, the communication we have within the team, it comes down to just our skills at being able to hold someone accountable. One of the underlying principles that I've really turned the page on is love, for the lack of a better term, with my teammates. We unfortunately see each other very transactionally. I am hiring Kelly's company to provide drywall support, period. And that's it. Now, whether we have a relationship after this project is done is irrelevant. I need drywall. I'm building a building. I need drywall. I need framing. And Kelly's company can do it. I'm hiring. I'm hiring Sturgeon Electric. We're going to go do the job, whatever. Very transactional. No. We are investing so much time with each other. We are leaving our homes every day for 10, 12, 16 hours at a time. We're spending a huge amount of time together. So why not work harder at truly saying, listen, I love you as a person. I love you as a fellow professional in this business. I love the way you're passionate about stuff. And so, but we don't ever talk about that. Oh my God, are we talking about feelings on construction? What? That's sacrilege, right? But because we don't, then we don't develop those relational relationships, and it stays transactional. And that's what I learned in the government contracting all the time. It was price, period. It was not about qualifications nearly as
about low bid
as it was about low bid.
Yeah.
And so, no. I tell you, I would love to have had a follow-on project to take that team from that Louisville project and walk right into Denver and do another one, or another one somewhere in the Denver area that we could all just move together on. I was lucky enough to do this in Phoenix and Tucson early in my lean career, 2013, 2014. Did a 4-story behavioral health project in Phoenix, and then did a 36-bed addition, single story down in Tucson a year and a half later. We had developed so much good, tight relationships, not only as fellow construction professionals, but also as partners on the contract. And when we were moving to that second job, we were really struggling to get good numbers on the mechanical trade. The electrical project manager took it upon himself to take the scope of the mechanical work and bid it out on their own, just to say, I wonder what I can get. So we got a number of $200,000 in savings across the board that was not being shown to the rest of the team. No problem. We took that, approached the mechanical partner and said, hey, here is what the market in Tucson is costing for that scope of work. It's about $200,000 less than where you're sitting right now. We give you the option. Do you want to stay with us, or do you want to go on. And the president of the company, I remember it like it was yesterday, sat across the table from me and said, we're moving on. Great. No problem. I appreciate the candor. I appreciate the honesty.
Mhm.
We will pay you all the stuff that we owe you up to now. Moving on. No harm, no foul. And it was fine. We brought in another look. But the key was we had developed enough trust. It wasn't me going after the repricing that or putting that back on the street. It was another teammate that saw the value of the team and went after this, trying to find another teammate that could live on the island with the rest of us. The original contractor, we call it in the business, voted himself off the island, which is fine. That's okay. No hard feelings. He had to make a business decision.
Mhm.
So we don't approach it from a truly relational perspective. We approach each other from a transactional relationship. Therefore, you have litigation. There you have contracts that are 2,000 pages long that nobody ever reads. That's why you have liability insurance out the yin yang that we have to cover, right? I mean, there's just so much distraction in the value. At the end of the day, what is a value? We're sitting in a room, all of us, all three of us, sitting in a room. What is a value? This wall. That's a value. I had to pay for the material. I had to pay for the labor, the processes that it takes to pay for those things. Technically waste.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, all I care about is the drywall. That's it.
Mhm.
Sorry, you got me going on my soapbox now.
No, that sounds
Well,
good.
Well, we'll get you on another one with like, what are some stretch goals of conditions of satisfaction that that you really want to see, but we just never can get to or agree to, maybe.
Unfortunately, there's not enough true IPD. When people think, okay, and you got to understand there's a difference between lean, which is really kind of a philosophy and a culture. And I look at IPD, integrated project delivery, more as a vehicle, a contract vehicle. And a true IPD, when somebody says, hey, how much do you know? Or I ask the question, how much do you know about IPD? They'll tell me some things. And I say, well, have you ever been a signer on a contract where your profit is at risk? If they say yes, that's a completely different level than saying, well, I've used pull planning. It's different. So when profit is at risk, this is what I loved about the contract when I first learned lean. The way that we set up that profit pool was, okay, partners, everybody's profit is at risk. That project we did was maybe $40 million total construction value. Let's say $40 million. Total project construction, maybe 25, let's just say. So let's say Kelly's piece of that was $3 million. I don't know if that's right, but let's just say it's $3 million. Okay. Well, their profit on that, let's say, is 10%. So that's $300,000. Okay. But in the way we wrote our contract was, hey, if you meet these milestones, we'll increase your profit up to 50%. So that 300 could go to 450. Now you're talking some serious change of attitude, because we say, okay, but then you have to set the stretch goal to truly be a stretch. And you've got to really dive into the weeds of execution to make sure the team's not sandbagging. Because it's say, well, if I know that if I set that stretch goal too easy, well, then we're not really helping ourselves. If I make it too hard, then you're going to lose motivation to try to get better in your day-to-day. So that's how we used profit, because we almost guaranteed you're going to make your 300,000, no problem. And I think at the end of that project, everybody ended up getting a little bit more. It wasn't a lot more, but it was a little bit, right? Because we met some milestones that we all agreed to. We held each other accountable to those. And again, this is part of that condition satisfaction. What are those metrics that we're going to do? We're going to work under every day to meet the additional profit. Our company, unfortunately, current company doesn't have it like that. Any benefit comes back to the company. So where's the incentive, right? For the partners to want to get better. There's not really one, right? And then we don't do it in the industry. That's why over 50% of the projects are late and over budget.
Everybody's just out for themselves when it comes down to it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's traditionally how construction has been over the years. It's very rarely do you see a mutually beneficial the way, because look at the contract itself is not written to traditionally. The AIA documents are not written there. Now I will say there is an AIA document for IPD. There is. We just never use it. Lack of education by the owner traditionally, right? Because that's who owns the contract traditionally is the owner. They're afraid of it because they just don't know. Their attorneys are afraid of it because they just don't know. So my answer to that is you got the wrong attorney. Go find an attorney who knows how to do IPD and has experience with it, has done hundreds of millions of dollars worth of work through that contract vehicle. Well, you're going to get a different perspective. Because that's all we're trying to do is CYA. That's why all those paragraphs are in the contract for CYA.
I think that's a lot of it in general, is that people are afraid to, because they don't know how to deal with it. They don't know how much time it's going to take. So it's easier to just push it to the side than to try something new.
Yeah.
I mean, that's every day. Like, that's why I feel like the construction industry is just locked in to what we've done for, 100 years kind of thing. It's this is how it's worked. That's how I learned how to do it. And I'm comfortable in this. This has consistently made us 10%. I like staying at 10%, but I mean, we know with the labor shortage and everything now, that's no longer potential. We have to find ways to be better, to continually make profit, or to build better. I mean, that's in general, it's more or less, I'm afraid to do this because I don't know what it's like to not have any submittals being turned in and approved. I mean, we did that, Kent, on our job, right? I don't know what that means.
That. Why do we have a punch list? If you truly love your work and your name is on your work, you don't need me to tell you the quality's bad or that electrical outlet cover is crooked. You can see it. Don't tell me to come and look at it if it's not ready. I mean, sorry, another soapbox. But you're exactly right.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I think there is obviously some incentive with potentially making more profit with those types of projects. But I think the bigger incentive is the fact that people feel like they enjoy their jobs more, right? Like you go to work and you feel happy to be there versus like these other projects where it's like, oh my gosh, like, the superintendent is so mean. I regret, like I just dread going to that job site. And for like an entire year you're on that project, you're counting down the day until you can leave that project because of one person. It could take one person to literally ruin your entire experience. Yeah. So I think that's what's so nice about, just lean principles in general is, one of the top principles is people. And so you're putting in everyone is holding each other accountable to treat each other with respect, which is crazy that we even have to have that. Like that even needs to be a part of it. That should just be human nature, right? To treat people with respect. But it seems to be something that's not done very often in construction.
No, you're exactly right. We again, it's transactional. There's no room for relationship. No, I'm hiring you to do a job, do my job, and move on. Thank you. Your profit is enough. No. I took a class, a self-guided class on happiness probably 3 or 4 years ago through, I think it was Yale University online. It's free. And, the studies that were the basis of the class the professor had done really talked about what makes people happy. Is it pay? Yes, up to a certain point, but plateaus. Is it materialism? Yes, up to a certain point. You've got all the shoes, the clothes, the cars, the homes, up to a point. Is it time with family? Yes. But time with family sometimes gets pushed aside because you've got your priorities kind of mixed up and you're dealing with work stuff, right? Anyway, all those material kind of things were impactful for your happiness, but only to a certain point. After that, it's relationships across the board. You look at where I'm at in my career after 30 years of doing this, I'm on the back end, right? And so I'm like the impact that I can have in my teams now, not so much grinding away as a PM, just doing the work, but it's now, okay, how am I setting up this podcast? How am I setting up or influencing the people I come across every day to say, I love this business. I love this industry. We can do so much more if we only cared a little bit more for each other, right? Um, but that's you're exactly right. What I remember now is things that happened together on the job site. I mean, that's what you remember. That's what's going to go back to, whether good or bad. That's what you remember is those challenges that you buckled down. You get the 2 or 3 folks together and you nailed it. You figured it out. Or you had interactions that were challenged you as a professional engineer or a professional construction worker or whatever. And again, good or bad, that's what you're going to remember is those times. And think about you and your family. I remember every car I've ever owned. But man, I remember driving in the minivan to Orlando from Austin. I mean, those are the kind of experiences that you have. It's not the van. It's being together as a family. And those kind of things now, that's really all that matters in the end. Is how we treat each other.
It's funny that you say that because, my first project outside of, like, literally from graduation was an IPD job. So I went into construction. It was the same project Kelly was on. I can't say the name on the podcast.
Okay. But it's healthcare?
It was a healthcare project,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, okay.
And it was my absolute favorite project. So I went into construction with this experience being my first experience other than like my internship. And I can tell you from that point to now, like, I can't really tell you a lot of details about any of my other projects I've worked on. And I've been in the industry for 6 years. Like, I'm a PM now. And I mean, like, even as a PM, I can't tell you the details, but I could tell you a lot of details about that project and about the people that I worked with. And I'm still actually very good friends with majority of the people that I worked with on that job. And it just goes along. I mean, it goes such a long way. And just, I feel like people don't understand how important networking is in this industry. And just like, that's why I became super passionate about lean, was because of being on an IPD job and then going directly to a traditional job right after and being like, oh
my gosh, it's like,
yeah.
I mean, this is graying enough and it's thinning out enough. I just don't want to waste my time over there because it's going to go away and be more gray sooner than later. Yeah, I'm with you.
Kent, Ryan was on that project with us. So Jenna knows Ryan very well too. And we, all 3 of us are working on, it's not an IPD project, but all 3 of us are working on another project this year and going into next year. And so I let Ryan know that you said hi, and he can't wait to listen to the podcast now.
Well, and there's no reason why you can't step aside as a core group of lean practitioners and say, okay, let's take this next 30-day sprint and let's get after one issue that drives everybody crazy on the site. We're losing time because it's a multi-story deal and we don't have any bathrooms up in the middle of the building. They're always down on the ground. So we're losing this much productivity because the guys have to travel all the way down and it takes 30 minutes to go to the bathroom. Oh my God, don't get me started. Think about that. You got 100 guys on the site spending 30 minutes a day going to the bathroom? How much productivity that is lost? Revenue? Oof, that's crazy. But there's no reason you can't individually or as a core group to say, listen, we're going to go after this. How are you taking care of the guys? Do you have a good set-aside area for the lunchroom so they want to come to work? The cleanest bathrooms in the entire world should be on construction sites. As hard as those guys work, those porta-johns better be clean because that's, again, one of those things we don't think about it much. But if I'm a worker bee and I got to take a break, is my break room a mess? Does my break room have air conditioning? Does it have heat? Do I have paper towels where I need paper towels? And those little things that go a huge, long way that we just overlook. It's the construction workers. They'll get to it. No. That's why we don't have as many people coming in, because those little subconscious things chew away at us. And we're like, yeah, whatever. We're moving on.
Yeah. It makes them feel like dirt. I mean, you're literally telling them that this is their worth. You're setting up how you have the job site set up and how you address them is basically telling them what their worth is. And so, If you're telling them the worth is crap, that's how they're gonna react to the project. That's how they're gonna, like, the quality. It's gonna show up in the quality of the work. It's gonna show up in the way that the safety. It's gonna show up in how they treat each other. Yeah, I mean, it does. It goes.
You're exactly right, Jenna. And toward the end of the project, when it's really crunch time, or the end of a milestone, and you really need to meet this milestone to get more profit, or to go to the next, to release the next step of work or whatever, they're not going to stay overtime. No, they're not. They're going to slow down, actually.
Have you ever on seen on a project a condition of satisfaction that is focused on the trade field, the guys out there, where it's like, we are going to, make sure they have clean bathrooms, whatever. We can use that one as the example, but have you seen that as a condition of satisfaction? Because I definitely have not, but that would be very interesting for it to be like coming from the top down. Hey, we're going to make sure the guys out there feel the respect.
Yeah, this project that I'm working on in Indiana, it's a big 270,000 square foot women's hospital, 9 stories. It's a big one. We're going to open in about 45 days. At the beginning of this, 3 years ago, we said, okay, what is our condition satisfaction? One of them I brought up to the team. I said, listen, we're going to eventually have 200-300 guys out here, folks. So we better have a very good lunchroom area, not this chain link fenced area that's off to the side out in the weather. Nope, I want a double wide trailer. We're going to pay for this. We're going to set it up correctly. It's going to have a bathroom in there, or 2 or 3. We're going to have segregated bathrooms because you have a lot of women on the sites now, and we're going to keep them clean. And guys, I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to make a difference in your staffs when they get here. And we held to that. Now, has it always been clean? No. But again, that's one of the things that I look for, because again, that's one of the things that I brought up was when I travel out to the site, I want to make sure we're looking at that little thing. We have no idea the ripple effect that that's going to have to maybe that superintendent takes that approach to the next job that's much smaller, but he's going to make sure he takes care of his guys with a clean bathroom. You never know. And that clean bathroom may be the difference between a guy who's maybe 10, 12 years in, and he's done with the business, or he's not. You don't know. We don't know. But we can set it up at the beginning, thinking forward about it and saying, we're going to create a scenario where, is there a gaming system? No. We're not going that far. Because we want to make it productive. We want to make it nice and clean and useful. And we lay that out. And then another step forward that you can take, I've not done this well enough, is ask the guys. When I'm walking around and I'm doing a tour in a project, I stop and I talk to the guys and say, listen, how long have you been out working out here? 6 months, a month, 3 days, whatever. What did you expect to see that you don't see? What drives you crazy about this project? A lot of times it's parking. We hear that a lot, because you got to park way over there, right? Because you're in the middle of an active hospital, right? So all that parking is by the doctors and the patients and the visitors, and that kind of. So the construction guys have to go a long way. Okay, let's get a van. If we don't have a van, let's get a van. Let's get golf carts. Let's get some way to figure out how to make that better. So we got to ask and seek feedback. How's that working? Go find that guy again 6 months later and said, hey, you told me about this. We made some changes. Did you even see those changes? Oh, I sure did. That works much better now. Is it perfect? No, we're not trying to get to perfect. We're just trying to listen to them, take in, but then act. Take action in a positive way that makes it better for them. Listen, who's the end user? In the middle of construction, it's that welder. It's that drywaller. It's that sheetrocker. Those are the electrician. Those are the guys that are making this building good or bad. Same way in our world, in the owner's world, about facility management. When we design and build a building, I've got to think about that technician that's got to do the maintenance on that filter inside the air handler. Well, if we make the access panel one by one, and this guy's 6'5", 270, it doesn't match up, right? So we got to get him a bigger access panel so we can get in there to do the work. This used to drive me nuts on behavioral health. Most simple thing. In behavioral health, in a bathroom, you have a toilet that has a valve that makes the water go to the toilet. It's typically above it. Traditionally, the valve placement is right behind, what do you call it? A grab bar. So why do we design to have the access panel for that valve, which is typically about this big, behind a grab bar? So now the facility tech has to come out, remove the grab bar just to get to that valve to maintain that valve. Just move it up 6 inches and you don't have to mess with the grab bar. I mean, come on. So that 20-minute exercise to do your maintenance on that valve turns into an hour because you've got that extra piece on top. Again, this is just thinking with the end in mind, thinking about the techs that got to do the work. And again, going back to the bathroom, the electricians, the mechanics, the sheetrockers, drywallers, they've got to live on that site. They got to come to that site every day. We have a good space for them to take care of their business.
Well, and I think you make up. I mean, I think if someone was going to play devil's advocate, they'll say, well, they're just going to trash it anyway. They always put drawings in there and they don't treat it very nicely. But it's because we're setting the standard for their worth. And so they're going to react that same way. If we give them a nice facility, they're going to treat it nicely. You think that they're going to treat their house bathroom the same way? No. I think it's
because think about who's holding them accountable. At home, the partner is the mom, the husband, the wife, the kids, whatever. They're the neighbors, whatever. That's who's holding them accountable on their home life. So who's holding them accountable at work?
Right.
All of us. And we, again, listen, this has been all over the board. I've seen some success. I've seen some utter failure. You try it out, doesn't go because they just don't listen. Or they listened and deliberately went the wrong direction. Okay, I get it. But if we are not setting that standard up front and saying, hey, everybody starts at 100. Look at this. Look at this room. It's clean. Air conditioner is working. There's no cigarette butts everywhere. This is your house. The success or failure of your lunch is dependent on how well you guys treat this house. It's not on the GC to maintain this. We're going to rotate that around. Kelly can tell you, I'm an equal opportunity OAC leader, facilitator. Yeah, I might lead a meeting one week. Kelly would lead the next week. The GC superintendent or PM would lead the next week. The electrician PM would lead the next week. Same thing in the trailer. This is your trailer. Team, guys, work it out amongst yourself to figure out this month, the GC's cleaning it. The next month, the electrician's cleaning it. So everybody's involved, everybody's engaged, and you're somewhat forcing accountability across the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the toilet thing, it's a good analogy just in general of how you should be treating every project.
Mm-hmm.
It's,
it's a goal.
It is a goal. Yeah. So I think the one last thing, I don't know, Kelly, if you have something.
You go. You got it.
So we were kind of touching on it before we hopped on the podcast. So why do you think we can't put no RFIs as a conditions of satisfaction? Meaning why do you feel why do you think people struggle not having that safety net, I guess is kind of how I like to put it, on their projects?
I think it's a combination of things. Then they may feel, and it may kind of fall into one, is really fear. Fear of getting sued over something that we just missed. Fear of not making profit. Fear of hurting another person on the project. Fear of, I've never done it this way, so I'm kind of fearful to try something new. I throw that out there as a goal to say, hey, can we do no RFIs on this project? And of course, they look at me like I've got 3 heads. On that project in Indiana, we're at 825 right now on a $280 million project. The average cost of one of those is $1,000. 800 grand. Just waste. Now, again, it's a goal. If we as a team, as a condition of satisfaction, no RFIs, but we come up with one that's legitimate, okay, we agree as a team that this RFI is going to go through. But that's one thing that it's going to happen, but are we processing it in an expedited fashion? It's not just going to sit out there, go into 5 different hands. No, we're going to knock it out and move on. Mm-hmm. But we're not going to fall back on the crutch of a of an RFI that says, why do I have to do a validation RFI when it says the spec says I need a Mark 1 Mod 0 widget, and you're sending me an RFI saying that, yes, we're going to install a Mark 1 Mod 0 widget. Oh, my Lord. It's fear. It's just fear. It's all it is.
CYA.
But that's fear.
Yeah.
I don't want to stick my neck out there by not having this documented for how many audits have you guys ever been a part of? Ever in your career? I've been doing this 30 years. 4, maybe? So this whole charade of being sued over something is a charade, because in reality, the numbers just don't come back.
Mm-hmm.
People don't sue each other as much as they used to, unless it's big and bad. I mean, if somebody gets hurt, yes, those things come up. But yeah. the bulk and the just churn of the work we do, there's no audits. There's not.
Mm-hmm.
Fear.
The one thing I think it was ridiculous about RFIs is if the designer makes a note on a submittal that deviates from the drawings, submittals aren't contract documents. Or if they approve the submittal and it's not per their drawing, it's not a contract document. So therefore, whoever, either who made the note or who drew the drawings that didn't, wasn't fully didn't match the drawings, now has to write a confirming RFI stating, hey, you approved these submittal drawings and it had this thing in it that wasn't per your drawings. Are you okay with that still? Because I have actually run into a lot of issues where they'll approve the submittal and it'll be a very minor detail. And then it gets out on site and it's installed and they're like, oh, we don't like that. And then they'll go into their drawings and they're like, oh, yeah, that wasn't per our drawings. It's like, yes, but you guys approved it in our shops because we thought it would, whatever reason, even if it was our issue, we messed up or something with the detail. But now it's fully on the trade partner. Like there's not accountability on both sides there, Yeah.
And we typically don't dive into the profitability of all the partners on the project as it goes. So we don't know if that architect has already spent all their CA money. So they're going to do everything they can to not have to take an action. And they'll always go back to what's in the contract say. What does the contract drawing say? What's in this? Oh, that's in the specifications. Well, they hold up the specifications in their defense. That's a wrong partner. So it goes back to the beginning, and how do you know if you got the right partner? Do they truly have a lean mindset, a teaming mindset, a non, and I'm going to use the word wrong, litigation mindset, right? How can I protect myself later and stand behind the drawings and the specs, which are contract documents? This goes, no. The people that are decision makers, you throw that down as low as you can in the totem pole. Kelly knows what she needs to do. Jenna knows what she needs to do. And Kent. The three of them are going to solve it in the field in a 10-minute conversation. We're going to write it on the drawings, on the specs or whatever, and we're going to move on. Oh, no. I'm sorry. I got it. That's not what the spec says. And my procedure is that I've got to draw up this RFI. And we've got to, okay, now that we've made this decision, I've got to now go spend my time over here to generate this RFI and then send it to the two of you. Did you agree? Did you agree? Did you agree? Everybody agreed. Oh, we got to send that to the engineer, make sure they agreed and understand what we're doing.
And you got to price it. And you got to price it.
Always.
And then the pricing's got to be approved before you can actually move forward with the change. Yeah.
Again, it is a mindset of so many things we've already talked about. Lack of education on the contract itself, which most people don't even read. Fear of the unknown. Fear of being wrong. That's another thing, too, that our society has hurt us with is gotcha mentality. We don't really walk into projects with listen, I don't know you, but you're guilty until proven innocent. As opposed to the way the law really says, innocent until proven guilty. I'm going to say a personal story with you. Over the summer, I was in Kenya for a mission trip. Second time I'd been there. I was there 2 years ago and again this year. But I was really taken by their reverence for each other. Now, you're talking tribes of traditional, historical, century, just you're in my space. But over the last 100 years or so, they've overcome all that stuff and realized we're just people trying to farm, trying to raise cattle to support my family, try to send one kid out of 10 to school. But they lead with a yes. They lead with, you said, respect. That's the foundation of lean, is respect for each other. And they show that, they live that every day. They're building a 4-story hospital over there, about 2,500 square meters. So it's not very big, 4-story. But man, do they bend over backwards for each other because they have that respect for each other. They make $5 a day. $5 a day. And these guys are doing big time concrete work, what we call CMU block, 4 stories of that with reinforcing. They are bucketing concrete up to the roof with pulleys. There's no OSHA. Some wear shoes, some wear flip-flops, some might have a shirt that day. Some no gloves by any means, no safety glasses, no hard hats. So, but yet they're happy because they've got a job. They are looked at as a professional with a trade of maybe carpentry, or as a laborer, is so elevated above someone who does not have that day labor job to go to a work site. But the reverence that they have for their trade, for their work, for each other is so different than what we have here. Because we just take it for granted that, I'll just go get another laborer. That guy doesn't want to, follow the rules. Then, but again, we don't take the time to kind of set the tone at the beginning. I think that's something we can do better at. And again, it comes back to the condition of satisfaction. Condition of satisfaction is, I'm going to treat each other with respect. What does that mean? A clean bathroom, a place to sit down for lunch that's out of the weather, tools that I need to do my job, brooms if I'm a day laborer, I'm coming in for the day to clean things up. Okay, do I have the tools? Am I given the tools to do the work? That's condition of satisfaction.
It's so simple.
But so hard to execute. Oh my gosh. Because we're trying to overcome thousands of years of experience of not doing it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Changing the mindset.
So simple.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that was a great ending just right there. Boom, mic drop.
You guys make it easy, and this is just step one of a conversation, right? And
yeah,
tell you there are. I'm going to give a couple of plugs here. So many good people that are doing some good things out there on the human side of it. Ripple Intent is another great podcast with my friend Kyle and John. I met John Grant on that project, Kelly, we did together.
Yep.
And I met Kyle through that effort being in Denver all those years, because he's with another, then what Jason Schroeder's doing with TACT and TACT planning and Elevate Construction. Those guys are doing some great tools that are out there that give you simple one-pagers to follow on how to set up a big room. How do you set up a lunchroom? What are those conditions of satisfaction from a worker's perspective, that they are thinking about? So there's just a lot of great friends through the business, through the connections we've made over the years, that we're all trying to turn this ship. And it's going to take time. It's just going to take time. And we're going to move 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 forward, 2 back. You just got to keep at it. Just keep at it. So you guys are making a difference, whether you think you are or not, whether you might have 10 people listen to this podcast or 10,000 people, it doesn't matter. We are taking another step. I'm going to circle back to a faith thing. It's not my job to have somebody find Christ. No, that's not my job. My job is to be an example of a Christ follower. That's worked for me. It may not work for somebody else. Maybe not right now. I think there have been studies that say it takes, several hundred interactions with Christian people before someone either goes through a traumatic experience and finds religion. And that can be Buddha, that can be Dalai Lama, it can be whatever they want. I'm a Christ follower, and I think that's the best, but that's me. That's my choice. But it's not my job to convert someone. God's working on their heart to do that. It's not our job to convert someone to IPD and lean. It's not. All we can do is act in a way, conduct ourselves respecting people in a way that's powerful. It's collaborative. It is indicative of a better way to do work.
I think it's kind of addictive, to be honest. Like after the IPD job that I was on, it was just, I'm a very people oriented person. So I don't know. I just loved the whole concept and was like, why don't we do this on every project? So I'm just, of course, I'm like fresh out of college, just had no experience at all with any.
So you're not already jaded. That's right. You're not already jaded.
And I was like, this is awesome.
there.
I wanted to be a part of everything. I was running big room meetings like 6 months out of college. And I didn't realize that was like unheard of. The fact that I was like, you know what I mean? Speaking in front of the owner and all of this. And I had no idea that was unheard of until I started on traditional projects where I'm like, hey, can I just call the architect real quick? And they were like, what? No, like write that RFI, you know? So it was a wake up call for me.
Yeah. Well, and so that's another good plug for LCI, because those are the groups that think like we do. And we need that energy, that boost of energy, whether that's a community of practice, which I know Denver has a great one, or it's Congress, which coming up in next month or later this month, a couple of weeks in San Diego. So I encourage you to get around those teams to, again, just continue to support each other in changing the way we do what we do for the better.
Actually, that's a good plug. Kelly and I will be, so we're both on the COP for Denver. And we actually are going to be collaborating with LCI, and we're going to be doing a live podcast with a panel of 5 people. It'll be an owner, an architect, a GC, designer, and a manufacturer. Is it trade partner?
Trade partner, yeah.
Trade partner.
And
so we want like the whole top to bottom.
Yeah, exactly. And then we were going to basically ask them like taboo questions, like Kelly, what was the name of it? We remember. It was so good.
We we're not telling the name of it yet.
Anyway, it's going to be really, really cool.
You got to show up. Must be present to win. Yes.
Yeah, it'll be live. So you can watch it on like our podcast, but so it's going to be really cool. But
that's going to be awesome. And again, it's just another step forward, right? It's another step, and you don't know. And I'm gonna take Kyle's words, where that ripple is going to impact others. We just don't know, but we got to keep at it. But it takes a village to create this environment that we know can be successful. Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining our little tiny village and making it slightly bigger on the podcast.